going to say something about about the last decades, quite a few decades, which started a national fashion development, which actually turned against one of the most important scientific achievements of the last century, and to some extent even to this century. That's the power of the anti-scientific, anti-nuclear forces, which still carry on these days, and of course our resistance to these people. Now, the trouble began, of course, in World War II, of the effect of the nuclear, the atomic bombs on the Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and then strong peace movements after the war was over, which preached relentlessly against nuclear power or anything to do with nuclear, whether it's for power production, whether it's for health, whether it's for economic reasons, whatever. It had to be a freeze. There was a freeze. Now the movement began really fairly close after World War II, a few decades later, but also some brilliant people tried to defend the research in nuclear and so on. Some of the people who of this kind, they worked on their own. I just have to remember a person who was against this whole cultural development, anti-scientific development, not specifically against the nuclear power. That was, of course, Peter Metzger in Denver, who worked for the Colorado Electric Power Company and eventually had to leave because he opposed some of their policies. But he also was an inspiration for the name of a book Rail and I wrote, which was called, what was it called?
Coercive Utopias.
What?
Coercive Utopias.
Yeah, the Coercive Utopia. That's a brilliant name, because they certainly were utopian, but by God, they tried to force everybody to follow them. This was one. Another one was a brilliant person, was Peter Beckman, who lived in Boulder, and was for a while actually a member of the University of Colorado's physics department at some point, but he was the author of a newsletter, Access to Energy, which relentlessly attacked all the attempts to reduce energy, especially to wipe out any energy from nuclear power. He was a very funny man, of course, also with a very unusual history. He came from Czechoslovakia, and he was a person of a Jewish father, non-Jewish mother, and his mother was a committed Czech communist, very angry with her son, who pointed out all these troubles that those societies caused, and eventually actually left his family. His father, I think, was dead by that time, but some of his Jewish relatives from his father's side survived, got to the United States. he got to England, and from England, after a while, he also came to the United States. Where he found, to his regret, a very strong, and of course, fact is, leftist-oriented, anti-scientific society. He ended up, as I said, in Boulder, Colorado. Had a lovely house in one of the canyons near Boulder. Got married, a very nice person, and it had to be a very nice person because to live with his sense of humor was not that easy. Sense of humor, I mean, when he had a big dog, when he said to the big dog, what is better, dead or red? The dog fell back on his back, waved his feet in the air, then collapsed and pretended to be dead. This is just one of these items, and of course, access to energy, which was brilliant in coming out with critique of the various anti-scientific, anti-technology, and especially anti-nuclear elements in the country, came out, and also pretty strongly imbued with a sense of humor which he pursued. Oh, these were pioneers. Another one at that time was Miroslav Todorovich, who also tried to organize resistance to this movement of the anti-nukes, and he worked out of his home on the Riverside Avenue in New York, and had become a teacher at I think it's Bronx Community or Brooklyn Community, I forgot, a college in physics. He was, of course, as the name will show, he was a Slavic person, actually out of Yugoslavia, especially Serbia, which still was Yugoslavia in those days, and where he had already been part of the resistance to the Nazi invasion. And his father was a publisher of probably the most important newspaper in Yugoslavia, and during the last years of the war, when the Germans had occupied Yugoslavia, and he was also in Serbia, he had to be taken out of capital. No. Oh, just a second. Can I stop this a minute?
All right, let me try.
Belgrade.
Belgrade. Okay.
Yes, Belgrade was, of course, the capital. Belgrade. And they had to take him to one of these underground groups. So it was already partly in the hands of Tito, but he never forgot this Serbian physicians who operated on people as they fled from Belgrade without anesthetic and without this. Most of them survived very well and did well. Anyway, he became a physicist in some incredible version. He managed to get to the United States with the permission of that Titoist government of Serbia, to whom he explained that it's very important to make a good impression, which the Yugoslav government therefore decided to buy him a decent suit, because he can't come to the West looking as if you had run down, sort of like that. It's a different attitude that later on Mao in China, where everybody had to live to the same grade. Anyway, that's how Miro came, and that's how he eventually developed this idea that you have to have an organization against just this development of things. The organization eventually, in the late 70s and through the 80s, especially the first part of it, was created by him, basically. And he found a very strong group of supporters. It was, to my mind, the greatest scientific collection on the pro-energy, pro-nuclear side. Unfortunately, it was done without Beckman. Somehow, you know, it was always a little bit matter of personality. People, you know, especially in a case like this where they should have. But then maybe it would have been developed in a different way. I can't tell. Now, the organization is what was called Scientists and Engineers for Nuclear Energy. Actually, the title was Scientists and Engineers for Secure Energy. In other words, nuclear was, of course, the main sector. Now, the people who joined it, we had more high-level scientists than any other organization in this country, which including those that call themselves scientific this, scientific that. So the head of it, the head of it was Seitz. What was his first name? I forgot that.
Frederick.
Which?
Frederick,
Yeah. Frederick Seitz, sorry. See, that's another one of those weaknesses of our organization, when you don't remember. Well, what can I say? So it was Frederick Seitz, who was the head of the American Society of Sciences and of Rockefeller Institute, and the chairman of Rockefeller Institute, an outstanding person, both scientifically and as politically untouchable. I mean, and committed to free society, freedom of research, all kinds of things which even in this day become matters of endless discussion between the parties. Okay, another one was Fred Adair from Yale University Physics Department, very famous. And then the third person was Alexander von Gravenitz, who taught at I think at that time also at Yale, and eventually, as things developed, got a job at the University in Zurich in Switzerland, which he took because at this point he had felt there wasn't really great hope here to pursue a reasonable development, and of course it was a matter of also appreciated by colleagues which he accepted as SE2. I don't know, he must have had some other problems. Then we had Hans Bethe, a big physicist, Nobel Prize winner at Cornell University, and another Nobel Prize winner, Eugene Wigner at Princeton. By the way, a person who had a very big reputation, of course not just as Nobel Prize, but had a very big reputation because he had told the Russians who were building
Noble.
I think it's Chernobyl, right?
Chernobyl, yeah, Chernowitz is a town at Chernobyl, that they had to do something different. They didn't do all it right, and it would be a disaster. He said it didn't have to be a disaster, but as far as you can foresee, and as far as you will judge their methods of construction, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just to do these things.
Right.
Well, we know how that one worked out.
Yeah.
Quite apart from that he was a very, also a very well received, or a very, well, I should say humorous also, had a lot of sense of things. And then, of course, we had Edward Teller, who had at that time, I think he was at Livermore Laboratories, and then a number of places actually, but absolutely outstanding, and one of the great fighters for energy, and deeply hated by the left, because he just didn't give him any credit. He says they are just. I mean, the part when that happened here was a 3 Mile Island business, which everybody reacted the way nowadays they react to that Japanese disaster.
Yeah.
What was that?
Fukushima.
When everyone said, you see what happens with nuclear reactor, blah, 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 blah. Now, he said, well, at 3 Mile Island, nothing went wrong with the nuclear reactor. The thing that happened was a mechanical malfunction of some, I don't know what, some faucet somewhere, which didn't cause any great damage, didn't affect the nuclear function at all. But of course, everything had to be closed down, absolutely, and the reaction of the left was, wow, 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 wow. And to which Teller says, that's right. Afterwards he says, you know how many people died during the way this was closed down? It was 300. And people said, see? And he said, yes, 300 coal miners who were infected by coal dust and collapsing mines during the time this damn thing has been down. So you are responsible for 300 deaths, not nuclear energy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if going along this way did not help gain Edward Teller a great reputation, and especially in view of the fairly strong ongoing opposition. And I had here, I know it got through all kinds of levels of society. Millionaire donating, billionaires still donate to the anti-nuclear organization. In fact, even a newspaper which nobody can argue is right-wing, like the Washington Post, was amazed at this development. And of course, for us here, for me, here in Westchester, I mean, I was completely on the side, of course, SE2, what we short for the scientists and engineers, I was the vice president. Under Miro, Miro was the executive director, and Seitz, the chairman. Erich Isaac was vice chairman, Miro executive director, and other members of the committee was Adair from Yale, as I mentioned, and Dixie Lee Ray. Was that her name?
Probably.
She was from Washington, D.C., a great nuclear scientist, but retired, I mean, already, and she was officially consulted by a lot of energy companies, and her official title, which on her credit, on her card, was consultant, engineering consultant, or physical consultant. And there were some others which, as you know, my memory is defective. If I can't remember Belgrade right away, it's a terrible thing. It's particularly terrible thing if Gideon gives me advice that it is Sarajevo.
Yeah.
that really helped.
Okay.
Sarajevo, by the way,
Yeah.
is of today, of Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Oh, I see.
It's a very important town,
Right.
and basically heavily Muslim in outfits, but if one looks for moderate Muslims,
Yeah,
well,
that's
they had
what
them,
I
and
think, yeah.
that's okay. But here, in this town, in this Westchester, where we live, that county of Westchester, the representative from Westchester, as in Congress, as well as the head of the committee for what should I say, energy distribution and development, etc., a subcommittee, was violently opposed to any nuclear development, and that was important. I don't know how important he was important because they dragged him out to meetings and so on. And here is a major congressman who is completely completed. And I just, I had some note about it that that committee of his was funnily also occupied with conservation, energy conservation and exploitation and so on, which in his translation for that committee meant none whatsoever. No energy whatsoever is needed. I mean, what can you say? And they of course shifted with the wind. At some point, the argument was, well, scientists are opposed to nuclear energy. Science shows it's no good, which, well, this didn't work because SE2 produced long lists of scientists who said we must have that.
Yeah, right.
So that's, but then they changed their line and said, no, it's not a matter of science so much as of cost. We cannot afford. So they swift back and forth, which is a difficult situation
Yeah.
to counter. Okay, but we did have at some time some support from the government too. I don't recall the names again. I think Finger was one of them. Committee for Safe Energy, he called it. And then, of course, Shelby Brewer who was an assistant secretary of energy for nuclear matters. That was already impressive. That was under Reagan. And of course, what should I say, it was quite a strong thing. Well, in the public relations attacks that we had, we had some support. In fact, I think one of my contributions in the 82, I think I was, or maybe it was 83. I can't exactly know, and I have enormous amount of files which I can't track out. Was Sakharov in Russia, who had written a paper defending energy development and so on. And well, we picked it up and distributed it. This made, of course, the left unhappy. Shall I turn this off?
No, you can keep going.
Okay. I don't know, something here is telephones. That's one of the problems, that not only do I forget things, but also, as you notice, I have a hearing aid which doesn't function as well. It would function better if it was a nuclear hearing aid. But it isn't. Okay. Yeah. But increasingly, at some point, we were also consulted by different organizations, and particularly indirectly, and also directly, by various government bodies. You have to remember the the Reagan period was a period of nuclear support by not only many scientists, but also some by the government for political reasons. And of course, Reagan, he was definitely, in favor of rearmament and nuclear weaponry in view of the very large advances which the Soviet Union accomplished in nuclear weaponry, weaponry in general too. That was a big motive in his attitude, of which he did not shy away from being criticized. His attempt to enlarge powers in space for American weaponry, including, of course, mainly nuclear weaponry, was ridiculed. They used to call it, what do they call it? Space, not space, well, but one of these science fiction slogans, that's one of his, that's it. and his commitment to science fiction. And the other thing, of course, fight with his own mother. Not so. I'm completely with his own daughter, which was a very active and dead set against any nuclear development by the United States, which is something that she stuck to in spite of her father's attempt to make her meet with very personal, presentable scientists to try to convince her. Well, nothing did, except, well, it took a long time. I think just in the years before he met, and of course Reagan was in very bad shape, and wonder if he could still communicate at all, she changed her mind. At some point, global development influenced her enough to make her change her mind. So, as I say, some of the government organizations in those years, 81, 82, 83, especially one which was called Regular Commission, a National Regular Commission on the foundations, etc., of nuclear energy, which held meetings, at which point they assembled their anti-nuclear forces in that commission, and it was Hans Bethe who wasted hours and days on those meetings and just tore them to pieces. It was, these attacks were very important. You had to mobilize these people. It was, they had to. So anyway, so at the end, we had to, couldn't just rely on take Bethe everywhere, or even what's his name, Eugene Wigner or Teller. Teller, of course, was invaluable because he really did go whenever you called, even without calling, he showed up, and he was very quick-minded to respond and to understand the arguments of the opposition and especially their weaknesses. But so we had to do something else. We developed a working class, a working group on electricity and nuclear power. And I mentioned, of course, the people that were on it already were sites. Hayakawa from California, Dixie Lee Ray, what else was Cohen, two Cohens, great scientists, one from the University of Pittsburgh, the other one from someplace, I forgot, in California, as a work group that was ready to go on a day's notice, and so on. Maybe at this point we have to pause a little because it gets too much for me, and especially for this particular.
Yeah, the video gets too big, and so I have to shrink it.
So, of course, the truth is we did so much, but if you begin to talk about it, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger.
Why?
It is more and more and
Oh,
more.
I see.
Including the things that I forgot,
Yeah.
which very often are the most important things to remember.
Right.
Well, so that's
Okay.
about it.
Yeah, we'll do part two. We will do part two after we.
What?
This is part one.
This
We'll-
is part one.
we'll do
Can
part-
you imagine? It's mathematics.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
I have to tell you about my mathematical ability.